remember hearing a squish sound against my right ear, and it was the sound of carpet mixed with blood going into my ear. I started yelling for help, but when I say yelling, I mean a shout that was loud enough for someone around me to hear, yet quiet enough for the shooter not to hear me. No one ever came, but I did hear something. I reached my hand over my head, and I realized it was Hannah. I could hear her groaning beside me. Realizing that I wasn't alone, I kept trying to reassure her. Someone will come help us. Don't worry. Just keep breathing. Just please stay with me. I said that to her 1,000 times. At one point, a SWAT team member came running past us. He was the first person I had seen. I pleaded to him, please help us. He did a double take and said, someone will come back for you. Hannah and I were left in utter loneliness, and I thought I was dying. I kept repeating my mom's phone number to make sure my brain was functioning. I was creating math problems in my head and solving them to make sure I wasn't dying. I continued to yell for help. 15 minutes of laying there absolutely helpless. 15 minutes of lying in a pool of my own blood. 15 minutes of hearing Hannah St. Juliana's last sounds while stroking her hair and trying to encourage her.
Welcome back to Operation Evil. This is episode 121, and I am calling it the Oxford School Shooting. I'm your host, Nyoka.
And I am your co-host, Megan.
And I don't know what trigger warnings to give on this one because it is a school shooting, so I guess all the things would be trigger warnings. So there you go. But I'm just going to hop on in. The audio in the very beginning was one of the survivors talking about her experience that day. And I will have several audio clips inserted throughout this episode. But this all began on November 30th, 2021. The lunch hour was coming to an end at Oxford High School in Michigan. Today, though, would be different, turning everyone's world upside down in the school that day. And the person to cause the horrific scene about to happen was 15-year-old Ethan Robert Crumbley. He would take the lives of 4 classmates and injure 6 students plus 1 teacher. 4 days earlier, on November 26, Ethan's father, James, purchased a 9mm Sig Sauer as a Christmas gift for his son. Ethan's mother, Jennifer, posted on social media, quote, "Mom and Son Day, testing out his new Christmas present," end quote. The gun was stored in an unlocked drawer in the parents' bedroom. On November 29th, a day before the school shooting, a teacher noticed something alarming while Ethan was using his cell phone. She saw him searching for information on firearm and ammo. When the school reached out to Ethan's mother, Jennifer, she didn't answer, and a voicemail about her son's inappropriate search was left for her. But instead of Jennifer calling the school back about the voicemail, she texted Ethan instead saying, quote, "Laugh out loud. I'm not mad at you. You have to learn not to get caught," end quote.
Oh.
Isn't that weird?
That's extremely strange.
Yeah. There's so much that's so weird with this. So on the morning of the shooting, just a few hours actually before it happened, both of Ethan's parents were summoned to meet with the school administrators after a teacher found a troubling note in Ethan's desk. And the note contained a drawing of a handgun pointing at the words, quote, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me," end quote. The note included a drawing of a bullet with the words "blood everywhere." There was also a drawing of a bloody figure with 2 gunshot wounds and another drawing of a laugh emoji.
What was the date on that, Nyoka?
This was the morning of the shooting.
Okay, so the 26th
Mm-hmm.
was when the mother was texting saying, you just need to not get caught. And then the morning of the 30th is when this drawing was
The 26th is when the mom posted on social media that it was Mom and Son Day and that they
Okay.
were testing out his Christmas present. So they were going to the shooting range, basically.
And she admitted it was his Christmas present at that time.
Yes.
Got
The
it.
29th is when the cell phone
Got it.
search happened and she texted her son that weird text message. And then the 30th, the morning of the shooting, is when the drawing and everything was found. So on the drawing where it says blood everywhere, there was also a bloody figure with 2 gunshot wounds and another drawing of a laugh emoji. And then next to that, he wrote, "My life is useless and the world is dead." It's so weird. Ethan altered the note, scratching out the most disturbing parts by the time the meeting with his parents began. So they all go into the room, including Ethan, to talk about this behavior on that day. And the school officials raised concerns about his emotional stability and potential for violence. And they informed them that they needed to get him into counseling within 2 days and were asked to take Ethan home for the day. Now, Ethan's parents refused the school's request to take Ethan home. And they did not mention the gun to school officials, nor did they ask their son if he had it with him. So this whole time, it could have been in his book bag while this whole meeting was going on, for all we know. The parents leave, and Ethan goes back to class. Why didn't they take him home? I don't know. So here we are. It's 12:21, and it's lunchtime. And Jennifer, that's the mom, texted Ethan at school and asked him if he's okay, which is weird, but whatever. She said, quote, "You know you can talk to us and we won't judge." He replied, "I know, thank you. I'm sorry for that. I love you." Almost 10 minutes after sending that message, Ethan went into the bathroom with his backpack and came out with the gun and opened fire. By 12:58 p.m. that day, the shooting was over. The 4 students killed in the shooting were Madison Baldwin, 17 years old, Tate Meyer, 16 years old, Hannah St. Juliana, 14 years old, and Justin Schilling, 17 years old. The deaths of these teenagers ignited a debate about gun laws and whether parents should be held accountable for when their child commits an act of violence. Now, we are not here to tell you what we think about this in general, but in this case, we're going to be just discussing a lot of it because there's a lot of moving pieces here, a lot of weird ones that's not in all these school shooting cases.
Do you want me to jump in now on the Kentucky gun laws? Or
yeah, please do. Go ahead.
Okay. So just to stop you here, Nyoka,
Mm-hmm.
as far as when people say there should be laws about how we store guns, there should be laws about this, there should be laws about that. There are in some instances. Each state has their own laws. In Kentucky, now again, where was this?
Michigan.
Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan is not Kentucky. Okay. But just to paint a picture for a state with its gun laws, in Kentucky, there is no law as to how to store your weapon properly. They recommend how to store your weapon properly. They recommend it should be in a safe, unloaded, with your ammo stored separately, locked. Okay? They recommend that. Now, as a parent, you are criminally and civilly liable for your child. You are criminally and civilly liable for that weapon at all times. So that's the laws here in Kentucky specifically. Now, again, each state is different.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say my 6-year-old daughter gets a hold of my handgun. I am criminally and civilly liable for that. I am criminally and civilly liable with what I do with that weapon as well. So, of course, I can act in self-defense, and that obviously plays a role. Recently, there was a teen a juvenile, a lot of times juvenile, like, as you know, probably from listening to this podcast, juveniles, the details of the actual juvenile won't be public. However, there was a juvenile who actually shot and killed a intruder in the home. And they were going to go after the parents. They were going to charge the parents, but nobody was charged with that.
Oh,
But
good.
then again, right. And they could.
Self-defense, maybe? I don't know.
Correct. It is self-defense. And that's what all happened there. But again, they went and asked the parents and things like that. But I don't know how old that juvenile was, if that juvenile was 17, 18, because again, you're really not an adult until you're 21. So could have been a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, could have been a 13-year-old. I don't know. But again, those types of things come up all the time in front of the judges. Like that comes up all the time, in these cases. So just, spitting that out there, a lot of people are like, well, we need reform. We need things like that. I mean, you can say that, but just know the law for the state that you are in. And that's what I preach when I teach firearms too, is know the laws for the state that you are in.
Yeah.
If you are a CCDW holder, if you are a concealed carry deadly weapon holder, licensed person, whatever state you're in, you need to know what state you're reciprocal in. You need to know how to handle that firearm in every state. So just throwing that out there as a bit of information. And I understand these school shootings, obviously trigger warning, as you stated, but
right.
You should, in my opinion, you should be held accountable for your child. I mean, that's how it is. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that can go into that. And I think every case is different and unique, because sometimes there's just bad eggs out there and you can lock it up and you can do the right parenting and you can do all the things right. And that kid will do something stupid.
Right.
But this one, oh my gosh, as I continue, it's just so bizarre. It is so bizarre. Here's the moving pieces to it. So hours after announcing that Jennifer and James, the parents, were going to be charged with involuntary manslaughter because of this, they went missing. They were located overnight in the basement of a commercial building after an extensive search, including police dogs, local law enforcement, and U.S. Marshals. So to me, it's like, why are you hiding if you don't feel like you're guilty and you haven't done something wrong? So that's weird. Do you remember this going down? I
do.
remember this part.
Yes.
I don't remember all of it, but I do remember the parents hiding, and then they were finding them pretty much right away. So Ethan, the son, the shooter, was facing multiple charges as an adult, which is great in my opinion. He's 15, but he has done some awful things. So he is facing charges as an adult. And I do want to note that even though the parents being charged can happen, it is rare for parents to actually be prosecuted for a shooting committed by their children. I just want to make that a point. You don't see that happening. But now that I got that out of the way, I'm going to continue on. So the parents, Jennifer and James, pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter and appeared separately at their hearings over Zoom. The judge gave them $500,000 bonds apiece. And if they paid to be released, he ordered them to have GPS monitoring because he believed them to be a flight risk. And I agree with that. If they're running from the first, rumor that they were going to be arrested, yeah, I think they're a flight risk too.
I agree.
Now, Jennifer sobbed at the hearing and she had trouble answering some of the questions that the judge asked. At James's hearing, he shook his head when a prosecutor said their son had full access to the gun used in the killings. Their defense attorneys argued that they never intended to flee and had made plans to meet their lawyers early that morning. They claimed that the Crumbleys are just as devastated as everybody else and added that the gun was locked. But was it? Prosecutor Karen McDonald's office filed involuntary manslaughter charges against them, accusing them of failing to intervene on the day of the shooting, actually only hours before the shooting, despite being confronted with the concerns and the note found at their son's desk. They could face up to 15 years in prison. The Crumbleys' attorney said that the pair left town earlier in the week for their own safety, and I'm saying that in quotes, for their own safety, and would be returning to Oxford to face charges. But the prosecutor said that the couple withdrew $4,000 out of an ATM not far from the courthouse where they should have appeared that afternoon. And she said, quote, "These are not people that we can be assured will return to court on their own," end quote. Now, a business owner spotted a car tied to the parents in his parking lot late that Friday. And the woman seen near the vehicle ran away when the business owner called 911. And the couple were later located and arrested. And I have that 911 call that I will insert here.
Detroit 911, what is the address of the emergency?
1111 Bellevue Street. The parents of the shooter that are running away, they're here. I can't believe it. They're here. There was a Kia that looked like their car, and I walked around and checked the license plate, and it's their car, and the woman is here.
So police chief James E. White said that the couple were aided in getting into the building and that a person who helped them may also face charges. I never found anything about that person that aided them in the building, so I don't know who that person was, if they found them, if they were charged with anything. Now, on a side note, according to an article by the Anderson Independent Mail, this school shooting might have been avoided if actions were taken in face of several obvious warning signs. The article said the series of signs leading up to the school shooting include: on the day of the shooting, Ethan and his parents were summoned to the school office for misbehaving. The prosecutor said there was a strong possibility that Ethan had the gun in his backpack when he met with the school officials and his parents. Why didn't someone ask him to open his backpack and check its contents? The next one. Why would a father buy his son that gun and not properly secure it so it was under supervision? Why would a parent buy their child with disciplinary, oh my God, I can't speak, problems, a gun? Why would you do that? And lastly, in a search of Ethan's cell phone, police found detailed descriptions of his wish to kill classmates. They said that he had a journal and at least one social media post expressed happiness at having access to a handgun purchased by his father. Did no one see this post? If someone saw it, why wasn't it reported? These are just all things that he said were signs. This could have been prevented.
Oh, I definitely agree. It definitely could have been prevented at several different stages. I do have questions though before you move on.
Okay.
So when the parents had met with the school,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how this works. Can I refuse to pick up my daughter? Can I refuse to listen
Apparently.
to them? I mean, I don't know enough about what the school actually is capable of doing or is allowed to do, I should say, or legally allowed to do. I do know that like we have a school resource officer,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that I had an incident. I mean, I don't want to say with my daughter, but there was something that I had to alert the front desk about. And when I called them, they said, "Let me advise the resource officer of this." So I do know that there is communication with such resource officer. Now I don't know if this school had that or whatever, but in that instance, there should be, when you start accusing someone of this nature, there
Mm-hmm.
should be usually a psychologist and an officer in there. I don't know if you remember, if you recall, there was one. I don't think an actual school shooting happened, but I think that they were accusing a juvenile of it, and they brought the kid in without the parents, without the officer, and there was actually it was just the officer, and they were questioning him, and they ripped that all apart.
Yeah,
So,
can they
and
even do that? You know what I
I
mean?
don't
When it
know,
comes to minors.
and that's the thing. I don't know how the school can handle this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you say take your kid home, and can the parents truly refuse to take? Is the school held accountable for something like this because they didn't initiate that process, whatever
Yeah.
that process is,
Mm-hmm.
expulsion, whatever? So that's one thing I'm thinking about. The contents of the bag was definitely something I thought about right away,
Yeah.
because you can, not just a gun you'd be looking for. I'd be looking for anything that's like a shank type thing,
Mm-hmm.
whittled pencils, whatever. I mean, I would definitely have searched the bag. But again, that triggers that portion of what can the school legally do? I don't know. I don't
That's
know
a
enough
great
about that.
question. I would think that can they search something, or is this like a police officer? They can't just search. Can they
Correct. I
talk
don't
to your
know.
minor without XYZ? I don't know.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
since he wasn't expelled, did the parents have the right to leave him there? I guess
Correct.
because they did. I mean, I don't. It does
There's
make you wonder. I mean, they did request psychiatric help within
mhm.
48 hours. They did meet with parents as soon as that note was found. I don't know. It would
And
be
my
nice to know if somebody's like a principal that's listening, like what can you in this situation, what can you do in your state, in your
and
school?
to keep your school safe,
Yeah.
like what can you do in this instance, or what is protocol? What is the
Hmm.
standard procedure, operating procedure for something like this?
Exactly.
I would like to know that. The other thing too is going back to the Kentucky law, the old CCDW test for our state had in there a true or false question. You can, um, what was the question? It was a true or false question, and it was something along the lines of you can trust your child with a weapon as long as they have been given proper training. And obviously, that's false. You can never trust a child. And that's what the Kentucky law will teach you. Do not trust a child. And a child is anyone under the age of 21 in this instance, because that's how old you need to be to have a CCDW license. Now, again,
Hmm.
we are constitutionally carry in this state now, so
Yeah.
laws have changed, but people still obtain their CCDW, and you still cannot put weapons in a kid's hand
Yeah.
legally. You are civilly and criminally liable for that weapon and anything that comes out of it.
Right.
So with that being said, I do know parents that will lock their firearms.
Hmm.
They are locked, but their kids can have access, because if there's an intruder, honey, you just grab the gun. You know enough, and you can use it.
Yeah.
If
I
you
mean, I
need
would
to.
agree with that if they're old enough.
Is
If they were in serious trouble.
right. What's old enough though? I've been shooting since I
Yeah.
was a little kid.
I
I
know.
never
I
thought of
know.
doing something like this, and
That's
it's
true.
so were the parents saying that now? Obviously, the parents did other weird things,
Right.
afterward.
I
But,
think it depends on the kid, and this kid definitely would not be like fit in that criteria.
right, right. And the mom texting, "Oh, are you okay, honey?" Like, okay,
Like,
I would
be
check in on
careful with
Lucy
your
too.
texting because
Yeah,
you
you
don't
you
want to get
got caught at
caught.
school, just don't search that stuff at school.
Yeah.
Like don't. I can see that conversation happening
Mhm.
with, with a kid. You can't go to school. Lucy went to school and said, "Oh, my mom's a firearms instructor," and all the teachers freaked out.
Right.
And they came out the door and they said, "Are you a firearms instructor?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And they said, "Oh, okay." But they were kind of like flabbergasted
Yeah.
that there's weapons in the house. They're all locked up. She has no access to anything.
Right.
But, they were concerned and they asked.
And that was good that they
Appropriately.
did.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're listening to the
Exactly.
child, but
What really is a huge red flag to me is the social media post. And not just by the parents, but from Ethan himself. Like, did the parents not see this? Are they not friends or whatever with their child and they're not keeping an eye on this activity? And if they saw this, why did it not worry them? If
right.
somebody saw this post, did people just think he wouldn't do it? My thing is, if you see a post like this, just report it, because sometimes you don't think a person's capable of doing something and they really are capable of doing that thing you didn't think they would. And I'd rather go on the safe side than not. I don't know.
Right. And I agree
This
with
is
that.
messy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with. I have a lot. There's a lot of questions. I have a lot of
So
questions.
many. And that's why I included that article, because they brought up so many good points
Right.
with this being something that could have been prevented. At the end of the day, the parents didn't do a good job.
No.
They failed these people that got hurt. So back to the facts. The Oakland County Sheriff's Detective Edward Wargowski, which I might be saying that wrong, reviewed photos, videos, call logs, and messages extracted from the Crumbley's phones, in addition to analyzing social media posts, school surveillance videos, and 911 calls connected to the shooting investigation during a preliminary hearing. And just for your information, a preliminary hearing is held to determine if there is sufficient evidence for a case to move forward toward trial in circuit court. So back to the hearing. The detective discovered quite a few things. They discovered that Ethan sent a text to an unidentified person on August 20th that said, quote, "Now it's time to shoot up the school," end quote. And then he typed JK, which is just kidding, multiple times. The messages included a video of his hand holding a gun. Yeah. And then it said, quote, "My dad left it out, so I thought, well, why not?" End quote. Ethan texted to another juvenile. In other texting conversations, they talked about kidnapping and killing another classmate. There were also videos of killing and mutilating baby birds. Within minutes of hearing about the shooting, James, who worked as a fast food delivery driver for DoorDash, drove home and shortly called 911. He told the dispatcher, quote, "I'm at the house. There's an active shooter at the high school. My son is at the high school. I have a missing gun at my house. My son took the gun. I don't know what's going on," end quote. And I will actually insert that 911 call right here.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
Okay, I'm not really sure. I'm at my house. There's an active shooter situation going on at the high school. My son goes to the high school. I have a missing gun at my house. I need an officer to come to my house right away, please.
Okay, I'm not going to be able to send anybody to your house right now, sir. They're on the active shooter situation right now.
I understand that. There's
you
a
have
million
missing gun
cops
at your
there.
house?
I have a missing gun, and my son is at the school, and we had to go meet with the counselor this morning because of something that he wrote on a test paper. And then I was in town and I saw a whole bunch of cops going somewhere, and I made sure that I wanted to get to the high school to see something was going on in the high school. And then somebody told me that there was an active shooter, and then I raced home just to find out. Okay. And I think my son took the gun. I don't know if it's him. I don't know what's going on. I'm
What's your son's
really
name?
freaking out.
I understand.
My son's name is Ethan Crumbly, C-R-U-M-B-L-E-Y.
E-L-E-Y. All right, sir, I'm going to put you on hold for just 1 second, okay? I have to talk to command and see if I can do anything for you, okay? I'm going to put you on hold.
Thank you.
Now remember, only a couple hours earlier, the Crumbleys were called to the school about Ethan's behavior, words, and drawings. Now they automatically go to my handgun's missing, like they hear about this active shooting situation, and this is their first thought. Now, as early as March, Ethan indicated through text messages that he may have been experiencing paranoid thoughts. In a string of messages to his mother on March 9th, he texted, Can you get home now? There is someone in the house. Someone walked into the bathroom and left the light on, and I thought it was you, but when I came out, there was no one home. A week later, he texted his mother again, saying that the house was haunted and referenced a demon. A month after that, he texted to an unidentified person that he intended to ask his parents to take him to a doctor and, quote, I just don't want to tell them about the voices, end quote. The first 4 witnesses included 3 of Jennifer's co-workers from a real estate company and a friend who owns a horse boarding farm where Jennifer took lessons. The following information came out about Jennifer. The couple had marital issues that beginning in 2021 and led to a temporary separation. Jennifer told someone she was having an affair and meeting that person during work hours. Soon after Jennifer heard about the active shooter, she became frantic and left work. And Jennifer told her boss, Andrew Smith, in a text message, quote, the gun is gone and so are the bullets. Oh my God, Andy, he's going to kill himself. He must be the shooter. Ethan did it, end quote. Now, is the affair or marital issues relevant? No, probably not. But it was just something that came up during the hearing. Now, back to Ethan. Ethan was charged with 24 felonies, including a count of terrorism causing death, 4 counts of first-degree murder, 7 counts of assault with intent to murder, and 12 counts of felony use or possession of a firearm. Prosecutors said they'll seek a life sentence with no chance for parole for Ethan Crumbly. They disclosed their plans 3 weeks after Ethan withdrew a possible insanity defense and acknowledged the shooting at Oxford High School. Ethan pleaded guilty to all 24 charges. The prosecutor's office said that he was offered and promised nothing for his guilty plea. His parents, Jennifer and James, are jailed on charges of involuntary manslaughter. They are accused of making the gun accessible to their son and ignoring his need for mental health treatment. When Ethan pleaded guilty, he said his father bought the gun for him with the teen's own money just a few days before the shooting. He said the gun was not locked in a container or safe at home. Ethan brought the 9mm SIG handgun and 50 rounds of ammo to school in his backpack. Moments before learning his fate, Ethan apologized and appeared to agree with his victims that the stiffest punishment was appropriate. He said, quote, any sentence that they ask for, I ask that you do impose it on me. I want them to be happy. I want them to feel secure and safe. I do not want them to worry another day. I really am sorry for what I've done, but I can try my best in the future to help other people, and that is what I will do, end quote. The judge's decision followed emotional remarks by the victim's family and survivors of that day, which I will actually include that audio at the very end of the episode if you want to hear it. Like how victim Hannah St. Julia was repeatedly shot, and another, Justin Schilling, was shot at point-blank range in the bathroom while another student was forced to watch. He described it as an execution and torture. How the judge allowed a framed photo of Tate Meyer to be placed near him while the victim's father spoke. Nicole Bruselli recalled seeing the body of her daughter, Madison Baldwin, at the medical examiner's office, her hand with blue painted fingernails sticking out from a covering. She said, quote, "I looked through the glass. My scream should have shattered it," end quote. Justin Schilling's mother, Jill, told Ethan that he executed a boy who could have helped him navigate in awkward teenage years. She said, quote, "If you were that lonely, that miserable and lost, and you really needed a friend, Justin would have been your friend, if only you have asked," end quote. Ethan was sentenced to life in prison without parole. And you may be wondering what happened to Ethan's parents. Were they found guilty? Well, early 2024, they were both sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison. They are appealing, so stay tuned. And guess what? Ethan also appealed after all that. Isn't that confusing? However, the judge refused to let Ethan take back his guilty plea and rejected his plea to have his life sentence reconsidered. And this will do it for this episode. Thank you for listening once again. As a reminder, we have plenty of episodes on our Patreon if you want to hop over there. We're getting ready to release this month's Patreon after we record this. And the link is in the show notes if you want to check that out. But here is the audio of those survivors of the victims and the impact that this school shooting had in their lives. After this, I guess we will just talk to you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You failed as parents. The punishment that you face will never be enough. It will never bring her back. It will never be a loss that you have suffered, and it will never heal the pain. Because one day you're going to be able to see your son, visit, hear his voice, possibly laugh, maybe see him grow. I will never see that again.
It wasn't possible for Hannah to outrun the bullets fought by you, Jennifer Crumley, which were fired by the 9mm Sig Sauer that you, James, gifted to your son. Both used to murder Hannah, Justin, Tate, and Madison. The fact is, no matter what you try to make yourself believe, Jennifer, you did fail as a parent, both of you. To love and to be loved, that is the human experience. It was up to you guys to show your son that. Instead of giving quality time and compassion, you gift your son a gun you knew caused extraordinary damage.
The ripple effects of both James and Jennifer's failures to act have devastated us all. This tragedy was completely preventable. If only they had done something, Your Honor, anything, to shift the course of events on November 30th, then our four angels would be here today.
When I was giving him breaths, he was getting lighter, so I just thought they were helping. So I kept giving the breaths.
How long did you do that?
Felt like forever, until they took him away from me. And then when they took him away from me, I was telling him to keep giving him breaths. He needs air. I could taste his blood. There was so much blood. It was all over me. It took me a long time, months. Probably almost a year to get the taste of Tate's blood out of my mouth. When you texted Ethan, "Don't do it," I was texting Madison, "I love you, please call Mom." When you found out about the lives your son took that day, I was still waiting for my daughter in a parking lot.
If only, Your Honor, they had taken their son to get counseling instead of buying him a gun. If only they had spoken up that day in the counseling office. If only they had checked his backpack. If only they had taken him home or taken him to counseling. You have failed your son, and you have failed us all.
The blood of our children is on your hands, too.
Unless
Unless you have a time machine or the ability to stop time, there is no existing punishment or rehabilitation that will ever be enough.